I'm Bo Johnson. I own a small custom boat shop called Johnson Custom Boats here in Wilmington, North Carolina. This 2002 Fells Bay whip raise at the shop. The owner is having issues with the original spray rails. They're popping and cracking, water intrusion through the hull from where it was bolted. This is a pretty generic repair. I'm doing it in a manner that is probably more suitable for a do-it-yourselfer or somebody who is in a small shop like mine who does not want to tarp off a boat and airborne gel coat and have to go through all the fixing and mess that makes. This is not as pretty as spraying and applying it that way, but it is efficient and it helps keep everything where it's at without having to have a whole bunch of waste and materials. We'll go ahead and prep everything out and protect everything utilizing the right tape, using FrogTape 325, which is going to be best for sanding up against the edge. It's a little thicker, more durable, has a medium adhesive. So I'm gonna do this as a boundary to kind of protect everything else, and then we're gonna layer back down and localize each repair area. We're going to just kind of bore out each hole so that instead of it being straight, it's now gonna have more of an angle and act more like a plug so that nothing will go past it over time as it shrinks. I want to make sure everything is nice and uniform when I sand it. And I want to make sure that my tape's doing exactly what my tape needs to do, which is giving me a buffer because it's so thick that it gives me a nice little 1/8 of an inch buffer before it, which is great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the thickness of the 250, which is about half as thick as the pink. And the other thing is, when you pull tape, you can actually stretch it too much. When you see me pulling, I'm trying to pull it like I'm holding a loop so that the tension is even and that the tape stays tight on both edges. I'm going to pull the 225, which is a lot thinner because we are going to be using some microfibers of fiberglass mixed in with some vinyl ester resin, maybe a little bit of Cavasil, and push it into these areas. We don't want the resin getting all over the surrounding gel coat, especially since it's sanded now, because it would create a mechanical bond and be a little difficult to get everything out of it. And we don't want anything to impact the gel coat process. So we're going to take this. It's probably going to be a little bit, I'm not going to do a long pull. We're going to kind of get right over top of them, probably 3-foot sections, just because we're working on a compound curve. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing into the hole and I'm pulling in different directions. We can see where I did not tape, and that's because it's on a radius, and we're just going to clean that just so that we don't have a tape line on a radius. But as we do this, you can tell that the glass starts to get what we call hairy, and we just want to make sure that we got it put in there and nice and flat, and we're going to clean up the edge with a finger. All right, so when I peel tape, I like to do it when stuff is still a little wet, especially when it comes to glass, so I don't have to clean up all the debris that hardens up or the tape that might stay with the repair. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling, and what I try to do is I try to get this edge and I try to get 45 away from the repair. So if I'm pulling any material with it, it's pulling this way. I'm not pulling it off the repair. And it's important to understand that you can do that depending on how much material you've put on there. And you can see how I've got a nice tape edge. All right, so now we got glass patches are all cured enough to where we can cut them down just a little bit more, but boat's officially watertight, so we're gonna buzz this down slightly low, and then we'll come in and prep this out for applying gel coat. Try to get this thing back to normal. So I'm gonna go back over all these little places I feather ground down to where they're low spots with 220 grit. The rest of the area down here below the blue, the 250, is already been prepped with 220. So we're just gonna make sure that the profile is the same on all the glass patches, and that way we got everything on the same page. So I'm gonna wipe it on just kind of as a base and pull it in nice and tight. And then once I've got every little thing filled in, I'm gonna get a little bit heavier. Use the tape as kind of a gauge of thickness. When I'm doing this is I'm putting a hard edge up against the top tape and I'm pulling down so that it stays a little bit high over the hole, so that when it shrinks as it's curing, it will keep the depth to the point where maybe we don't have to reapply. Remember that we prepped this area with 220 grit or 600 grit this morning, and we taped that area and had basically a sanding edge, the pink. Then we brought the 250 in, the light blue tape, and we sanded to the edge of it with 220. So when we peel this tape back, it's already sanded on the other side. It's already prepped. So it's that much less work we got to worry about later. And so when we pull this tape now, we're going to pull in an angle so that the leading edge is coming up to me, because it's pulling product this way and not down. Pulling it down, you possibly can string something out. It could lift that area and promote it not to bond. So we're gonna pull up. Now remember, this edge on this tape has been sanded and it is pulling really nicely. We've peeled back the tape. Keep in mind that all this underneath that 250 blue tape was already sanded and prepped, so that when we sand into this again, we're not really having to get up into this, and we're doing that so that the color fades back in, because this here is a little different in tone than this here, because this hasn't seen the sun since 2002. So that edge was sanded and it pulled this straight and that tight. And that is why we went through all the prep and process to make sure that it adhered and that we didn't have any tape bleed, and it pulled a nice straight line. What we're gonna do is we're gonna actually roll over the spots that we've touched in with the thickened gel coat without wax. This has wax. This would be basically a sealer coat and a wet sand coat. And again, normally I would be spraying this, but we're going to roll this on just to show what you can do at home or wherever you're working on your boat. And then you're gonna see me take a brush and either touch some places in, but my biggest thing is I'm just gonna peel it just off that tape edge just a little bit, so we don't have so much buildup up there, so we do not have to sand it. And then we're gonna peel the tape. This is just the boundary tape that I sanded up to have kind of a blend out edge. So everything above this line is gonna be blended out. And I'm gonna try to smooth that little line out. It's not much of anything, with a little foam brush or my finger, just that the transition's not so evident. But we're gonna pull this. I like to fold this back just so I can quickly peel it back. FrogTape did great. It protected the surface. It gave us a defining boundary to protect and know where we have to work. It did exactly what it needed to do. And so I use products and materials in my shop that I know have my back and will stand up to their side of things as well. Something that is always consistent, that's helping me get the job done and protecting my work area and allowing me to produce a product that meets or exceeds my customers' expectations.